Good morning, everyone. My name is Rose DuRoss, and buried here is my grandson, Walter. Now, this story isn't about me, it's about Walter. You see, he died in 1937 at the age of 17. Now, I'd like to be able to tell you that Walter was a wonderful Christian child with high moral values, but he wasn't. He was a scalawag. He was always getting into trouble and the like.
Oh, don't be too hard on me, Granny. I did a lot in my few years.
Yes, you did, so much to the distress of your parents, Laura and Sherman, and your sisters, Jean and Betty. Now, why could you have not been more like your sister Jean? She was a good student in South Glens Falls and even played in the band.
It weren't my fault I was so active. I was doing boy things.
And you know that my folks weren't used to such shenanigans. But the DuRosses, on the other hand, they were a different story. Your grandfather DuRoss, my father, my husband, Arthur, came and took me out of my house when I was not even 15 years old. We were living up in Ticonderoga at the time, and he came to my door, and he was looking for a wife. And he was 33 years old, but he saw me, and I was strong and kind of pretty, and, hey, you be respectful. I was kind of pretty, so he chose me. And before too many years passed, I had your Uncle Fred, and then your father Sherman, and then your Uncle Albert. By 1910, I had a family, but by 1915, I was a widow. So, when your Uncle Fred was 20, I sent him out on his own, and I brought your father and your Uncle Albert here to Glens Falls, and I worked as a housekeeper. And do you know, by 1919, your Uncle Albert had his own house out on Bay Street, and he was managing a carpentry company, and I was managing the house.
Now, I was told Mom and Dad were young when they got married. They lived closer to town, on Bay Street still. Mm-hmm. Dad was always struggling for jobs. He worked at the paint store, helping his brother Albert. And in the boom before the Depression, we moved to Albany.
So, what did you think of Albany?
It was okay. Played in the streets a lot. Got into a lot of trouble.
Yes, you did.
They tried to get me interested in school, but it didn't go too well. Schools were too big.
Now, you tell these people what happened to you when you were 8 years old. Got caught in a big lie, didn't you? That almost got you killed.
It were an innocent thing. I didn't do anything wrong.
Confess.
Oh, all right. Well, we played baseball in the street. We did it every day. And sometimes the damn ball got...
Language, Walter!
Sorry, Granny. Sometimes the darn...
That's acceptable.
Sometimes the darn ball got caught on the roof. Now, I was a good climber being 8 years old, so I went up to get it. Now, how was I supposed to know they had painted over the skylights?
You should have known, Walter.
Well, I fell through and cut myself pretty bad and broke my collarbone. Now, I didn't want to risk the razor strap when I got home, so I just went to bed. Next morning, I got through breakfast okay until when my friends came to see how I was doing and told my parents, little rat. Probably should have told them my injuries were a lot worse than a beating. Well, I spent a couple days in the hospital, earned some respect from my friends, but my folks were pretty mad.
You know, I should have done what your father said. I should have waited till you got better and then whooped your behind good and given you some extra chores.
I'm glad you weren't there.
Oh, don't get lippy with me, young man.
Sorry, Granny, sorry. How did Dad get us back here?
Well, okay. It was after World War I. Your father applied for a bonus. And with the money he got, he brought you all back up here and he started building the house at 14 Lydia Street in South Glens Falls.
I was only 12 when we came back, and I mixed cement and helped lay the foundation for the house. Now, and it was out in the country then, lots of lawn and woods for adventures. I did so well working on the house that Dad started treating me like a man. He even seemed to like me then.
Yep, they got you out of the Albany schools, and into the South Glens Falls schools, and you seem to be doing better. At least so we thought, until the day you didn't come home. What were you thinking, boy?
School was so boring, and every boy wants to run away with a circus. Well, the big Ringling Brothers Circus was in town, and I went to check it out. I hung out with the roustabouts all day, and they even let me work the Ferris wheel. It was fun, and you could peek up the girls' petticoats.
Walter, that's scandalous.
It was a dream. They asked me if I wanted to go with them to New York City. I said sure. Now, it was all right for a couple of days, and the money was okay. People kept trying to steal it or get me to gamble it away. I have to admit, I was pretty scared and homesick after a week.
Your mother was worried sick. Nobody knew what had become of you. We all thought you'd been murdered or something. We notified the police, and we had it on the radio day and night. And then this New York City policeman, he goes to the circus to check it out, and there you are, big as life. And he said you were too scared to call home, so he made the call at 8 o'clock at night, much to the relief of your family and the whole town.
At least they brought back a gift from the circus. But it didn't make it too much easier on my punishment. I had to come home with Jean every day after school.
That's right.
Every day. We had to do extra chores around the house. Well, Mom worked at the gift and tea shop, and we even had to do laundry. One day, Jean got her arm caught in the wringer of the Maytag. I was a hero that day. I unplugged it and pulled it out, but it was flat for days.
You think that's funny? It's good that you didn't run away that day. And after all that, you didn't even finish school. So much heartache you caused your mother.
All I liked was art. They won't let you do that all day. So when I was 16, I didn't ask. I just quit school.
And what did your father think about that? The middle of the Depression, and he quit school.
Well, he told me I had to work. So I joined the CCC. I was sent over to Speculator, and at first I enjoyed learning about forestry. They even gave me my own chainsaw. I lasted about 4 weeks until my parents came up to see me, and I was pretty sick with pneumonia, but I was still working. My father raised the roof and got me out of there. The conditions were horrible. A few blankets and little food. We left, and I never went back.
And again, you caused so much worry.
It took me almost a month to get my strength back, and when that happened, I helped Dad build houses.
You know, he liked that. He thought, we all thought, you were finally settling down.
And when I wasn't helping him, I was working at the Glens Falls Country Club. I rode my bike up the Glen Street Hill every day, and I got into pretty good shape. You know, those old guys, I loved being a caddy. They gave great advice, and one old bird even gave me a set of clubs. I really learned how to golf that day. I even met my best friend on the golf course, Gov Donsthorpe. Yeah, he was older, but we really got along. He lived in Argyle back then, had some land out by Cambridge and Salem, some good hunting land.
Yeah, we all liked Gov. We thought he was good for you.
Well, one night, we went to the American Legion, South Glens Falls, play some bingo. There was a dance afterwards, and we thought we could meet some girls, and now I was a bit shy, but Gov was tall, blonde, and handsome.
I remember.
We walked into that dance, and the girls were all over him.
Gov was good looking his whole life. And do you know, he lived to be in his 90s.
Well, there seemed to be one girl who was looking at me. Her name was Frances Burton. She was shy too, but she sure loved to dance, and in 10 minutes she taught me some steps, and we danced all night.
Oh, Walter, you stop.
She was a housekeeper in Glens Falls, and I saw her every day after that.
Oh, Frances was a sweetheart. But you know, you were too aggressive for her. Huh. She was too innocent for you.
Well, between Gov and Frances, this was the happiest time of my life. I could see it then. The country club was bringing in good money, and it wouldn't be long until I was raising a family. Hunting and sports with Gov, and a family and romance with Frances.
Oh, you too. You had such a happy future planned. It's so sad what happened. Who could have thought it?
Well, often Gov and I would take off for his farm in Cambridge. I would help mend fences and keep the land in order. I always brought my gun to kill a few grouse. Gov was working with the fence down. He asked me to go get the axe that we had left a few hundred feet down the row. I went with my gun looking for some small game. Once I got there, I realized the axe was on the other side. So I climbed over, gun in hand, and the gun went off. The bullet hit me right in the stomach. I was still alive and still lucid when Gov brought me to the hospital in Cambridge. By the time doctors could get to me, I had lost a lot of blood. My father was there, and I knew I didn't have much time, so I had to tell him to take care of Frances and the baby. Yeah, Frances was carrying my child, and I hadn't told anyone yet. I needed to tell my father to take care of the family. She used to have it rough being an unwed mother. I died soon after telling my father the news.
Frances and Walter's child, a little girl named Dorinda, was born on April 24th, 1938. Frances and Dorinda went by the DuRoss name until Frances remarried a man named Joseph Shanks, and they had 2 more sons and a daughter, and after that she was known as Ma Shanks. And do you know, she lived up to just a few years ago, died in her 90s. Dorinda died before her. The DuRoss family were never rich or college educated, but they were part of the framework of what makes the Glens Falls area great. And Walter was so full of life and high spirits, and he packed so much into his few years. And he was taken too soon. So now you all know his story. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.